When it comes to Reddit, you never know what you might stumble into. Something lighthearted, something creepy. You're bound to find something that tickles your fancy. We will be taking a look at a handful of posts I found on a few subreddits, and admittedly, this first story is mild but still creepy. In 2019, a 33-year-old man named Roberto Daniel Arroyo was caught on CCTV licking a doorbell for 3 hours in Salinas, California. The family who resided in the home consisted of 2 parents and a few children, but on this night, the parents weren't home, leaving the kids alone at home to sleep. Luckily, they didn't wake up to this creep licking the doorbell. The police also said that it appeared to them that the man had relieved himself in the garden and that he was breaching his probation of a previous crime he committed, leading to him being arrested for more than just trespassing onto the property for prowling. The way he looks at the doorbell camera makes it blatantly obvious that he knew what he was doing and he wanted whoever saw the footage to see what he was doing. Perhaps he was on drugs, but I have no idea, as the articles written about this incident didn't mention anything about that. I found this next story to be pretty creepy, not gonna lie. On the 11th of April 2025, a user by the name of M. Otero posted this to the creepy subreddit titled, "Should I enter?" First off, probably no. If it was me, I don't think I would be going down a dark and creepy hole in the ground. But this user did, and they found the following. I will show you a handful of images and then the videos. According to the OP, the tunnel we use to transport laundry, water and steam from a steam plant nearby a river to a building situated there. The steam plant and building doesn't exist anymore, but the tunnel remains, which is a creepy sight to behold. Someone in the comments said that this looked like a wrapped up body, and I'm not gonna lie, it does look like it. But OP said they took a closer look at it and it was just a pipe with insulation on it. I went ahead and DM'd the OP to ask for permission to add their tunnel story to the video, and they did. They didn't expect the post to blow up the way it did, but hey, it goes to show that people genuinely enjoy creepy looking real world stuff, especially like OP says, that they find the whole thing creepy for the fact that the hatch just opens up in the middle of the woods. It just looks out of place, like it shouldn't be there, you know? It's almost like a hatch to a different world, another dimension. Kind of makes me think of the backrooms and the level we all know and love called Pipe Dream. Opie says they have to keep an eye on the place from time to time to make sure it's sound, perhaps even to make sure there's nobody else there trespassing. They also found a creepy looking well out in the middle of nowhere, and it seems to be going pretty deep, and they will return at another time in the future to see if they can somehow go down it and hopefully be able to explore it. Opie also found these wells while out exploring, and as you can see, it's out in the middle of nowhere, just trees all around. They also said that these wells were probably used by a railroad. This one kind of looks like there might be movement going to and fro. Opie is planning on posting more of these creepy types of findings if they go out exploring, so be sure to check their profile and see if you're interested. They're also an indie horror author, so stick around on their page if that piques your fancy. These next few photos were all taken on the day of September 11th, the day the World Trade Center fell. These photos are pretty creepy, knowing how many lives were taken on that day, while the people in the photos stood there, smiling at the camera. What makes this so incredibly bizarre and creepy to me is the fact that in one of the photos, people were walking on the sidewalk calmly. This must have been just as the buildings were struck and people didn't yet realize what was happening or how bad it actually was, with how many people ended up losing their lives. Other photos, however, looks like the people were taking the photos knowing what was happening and decided to take a memento photo. Someone in the comments of the post mentioned that they once saw a photo that's not to do with 9/11, by the way, where a lady took a smiling photo with her dad right next to her that passed away in his hospital bed. She did this for a post on how to increase business sales on r/LinkedIn Lunatics. I saw the photo and it's pretty disturbing. This giant sculpture, dubbed Haas, which is German for hare, was built in 2005. Also, Haas is also the Afrikaans word for bunny or hare, like they say here, so German and Afrikaans is very similar in that regard. Anyways, according to a legend, this bunny was knitted by more than a dozen grannies, and the bunny was made up of 1 ton of wool. This isn't just a legend, it seems to be a fact, as many as 50 women started knitting the pink wool covering the bunny sculpture in 1999. And the sculpture even has a fake heart and everything. It's quite bizarre, but cute and interesting in its own unique way. The giant bunny were created by an art group from Vienna called Gelatin, and they expected the bunny to last until 2025. But when the year of 2016 came around, the bunny was already almost gone and decomposed. For the next post, we will be taking a look at someone who posted the following on the 4th of April 2025, titled, "Someone put this on my windshield in the wilderness." The post reads as follows. My classmates and I were going out water sampling at a state river. We came back to the car. There weren't a lot of people in the parking lot and didn't even notice the note until we got back to campus and a security guard mentioned it. We thought it was a ticket and were more concerned about the fact that it's some random USB with a note talking about falsehoods. Obviously, we are not opening it, and it's probably something about a cult but it is interesting. Does anyone know where it's from or what might be on it? People in the comments told OP to go buy a cheap laptop and to plug in the USB to see what's on it, or to plug it into the local library computer. Someone also mentioned that the note the USB came with reads, "The truth is one, the falsehood is many." They also speculate that this could be a scam, a cult of some kind, or a virus made to infect the software of the user who plugs in the USB to steal money or personal information, which is very possible, unfortunately. OP still hasn't checked the USB, so for now we have no idea what could be on it. We will be ending the video on a creepy story I read on the LetsNotMeet subreddit titled "Church in the Woods." It's pretty creepy and unsettling, so be warned. I posted this on r/backwoodscreepy a while back on this throwaway account. My wife suggested this sub might find it interesting as well. Here goes. I grew up in Ohio in the 70s, and me and my childhood friend Joe were outside all the time we could manage it. Joe lived on a farm that bordered a pretty big forest, and my parents would drop me off in the morning and we'd stay in the woods all weekend. We'd only come out for school. We loved pretending we were frontiersmen. We'd build shelters, traps, practice making fire with sticks, the whole 9 yards. When we got to be in high school, we got this notion to pull a "Stand By Me." This was based on the movie of the same name that had just come out. The idea was that we'd walk the railroad tracks out in the country, but instead of looking for a deceased body, we'd find cool bridges to fish from and camp a little ways off the tracks. Of course, we knew this was dangerous and we'd likely be trespassing, but we were kids. We had a lot of fun. We did find beautiful rivers, we discovered bridges no one went to, we fished, we hid from trains. At night, we camped in woods just near the tracks and made small hidden fires. Nothing bad ever happened. It was idyllic. In fact, it was so fun. We did it multiple times. Never had a problem. After high school, me and Joe went our separate ways. We both left home but always stayed in touch and always tried to coordinate visits so we'd see each other occasionally. Well, one summer in the mid-90s, it worked out that we were both in town for about a week. We'd do stuff with family in the day, and at night we'd either catch drinks at a bar or sit outside Joe's house around a fire and talk about the old days. One night, me and Joe got to talking about our Stand By Me trips. Well, nostalgia and beer are a heck of a mix. Soon we decided to take a day, walk the rails, camp one night and walk home. The day came, we started out early morning. We had my wife drop us off in our old spot where we used to start, right outside our hometown. She thought this was absolutely crazy and made sure to mention it. When she pulled away, Joe suggested that instead of walking the usual route, we'd take the opposite direction, just to be adventurous. We knew the land well, we had a map, so I gave her, "What the heck," and off we set. The day went fine. It was fun and a little sad, but in a good way. We found a bridge and sat on the edge, smoked a joint and moved on. We had no fishing gear, but we brought some canned food and other stuff. Before night started to set in, we picked a spot to camp. It was a thick, forested area, trees on every side of the train tracks, so you felt like you were in a tunnel. We had brought small hammocks to sleep on, but before we set them up, we decided to do a little scouting of the perimeter. Now, this is what we used to do in the old days too. We'd walk the area around a little bit to make sure some dude's house wasn't just over a hill and we were actually camping in their yard. We walked maybe 100 or so feet into the woods and up a small incline. We figured if we didn't see anything from on top of this short hill, we'd be fine. But when we got to the top, we saw an old building down at the bottom, about 100 yards into the woods. It was barely visible. We pondered over what to do. We both assumed it was a sugar shack or something, because there didn't appear to be a clear road into it. From where we were, there didn't look to be anyone in it either. All was quiet, no movement could be seen, no lights. We decided to walk a little closer just to make sure. We came down the hill very slowly, and as we neared the building, we saw it wasn't a sugar shack at all. It was an old church. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. It was a squat, sagging building whose wooden planks were almost black from years of moss and rot. A cross still stood on top of the place, also weathered black. None of the windows had glass and there were no doors, just open doorways. We got close enough to see inside. There were rows of pews and a built-up section in front for a creature to stand. We didn't go all the way in, we didn't want to. Beyond all that, there was no sign of anyone else, no footprints, no paths, no roads. It was an abandoned church. We left immediately and went back up the hill to our spot we had picked to camp. Having a hill between us and the church made us feel better, but we were still a little uneasy. We chalked it up to the natural creepiness seeing a church in the middle of the woods would elicit. Besides, at this point it was dusk and we just decided to rig up our hammocks and go to sleep and move on at early morning. Night set in, and as we lay in our hammocks, we began to hear something in the direction of the church. Our conversation about it went a little like this.
Do you hear that? What the frick is that? It sounds like people singing.
And it did sound just like singing. We both slid right out of our hammocks and hunkered down, straining to hear more. We listened for a minute or two and the singing continued, but it wasn't getting louder. Finally, we decided to creep back up the hill and see if we could spy where the sound was coming from. We could still move very quietly in the woods from the old days. It was second nature to us. The moon was barely out, but it provided enough light so you wouldn't walk right into trees, but it was near pitch black. We didn't use flashlights as we crept slowly up the hill and we didn't talk. When we got to the top, we saw light in the distance. It was coming from the church and the singing was coming from inside. Joe and I put our heads close together and had a hushed conversation that boiled down to,
Can you believe this crap?
the light looked to be candlelight from the way it flickered, and though we tried, we couldn't make out what was being sung. It sounded like church music, but in another language. We sat and watched for a while, trying to see who was in there, but we only saw occasional shadows. We had no intention of getting closer either. We had about a football field length between us, and we aimed to keep it that way. The singing continued for a bit and then it stopped. After that, a booming male voice began to chant. I was already freaked out, but this voice thoroughly scared the crap out of me. It sounded like some Old Testament preacher you see in movies, but again it was like he was speaking in a different language because we couldn't understand a single word. Eventually, it got to where the single male voice would say something and then a bunch of voices would answer in song. This lasted for a while and then they all broke into this long, sustained wail that just kept getting louder. It got so loud and so disturbing that I covered my ears. Then it stopped. At this point, I was just getting ready to say, let's get the frick out of here, when Joe put a hand on my shoulder and hissed,
They're coming out.
We were far enough away that we couldn't make them out really well, but what we could see was a line of figures walk out the open doorway, all holding hands in single file. We could see some of them had flashlights. They began to sing again, and the light from the flashlights began to move towards us and the hill. We booked it back down to our campsite, grabbed our stuff and ran to the tracks. Once there, we ran down the tracks in the direction we had come from. After a few minutes, we stopped and looked back. We saw lights coming down the hill. They were moving erratically, like whoever was holding them was shaking them. We continued to run in spurts and walk as fast as we could. We eventually stopped seeing the lights and came to a road. By our map, we knew a small town was about 15 minutes down it, and we walked there, got to a 24-hour gas station and called my wife to come get us. My wife and other friends all just thought it was kids messing around, but I heard those voices, and they, sure as heck, didn't sound like kids to me. Not sure who those people were, but it was definitely the creepiest thing that happened to me out in the woods. Wow, that's creepy as all heck. Reading that, it kind of reminds me of that Paranormal Activity movie where the lady finds her long-lost relatives and they live out in the countryside in the forest, only to find out that they aren't her family, they are a cult. And thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, tap the like button, comment down below your thoughts and opinions, and please be sure to share with others you think might be interested as well, and subscribe to soothe that fascination.